Hey there, everyone. Just checking to see if anybody's here yet. It's about 4 after 9, so thanks if you guys have patiently waited. So if you can hear me, go ahead and drop a note in the chat to let me know you can hear me. Trying out some tech issues here as I get started up, which is sadly usual for me. So we'll get started in a few minutes. We'll see if anybody's ready to come join us in a little bit. But yeah, throw a note in the chat there if you can hear me. If you can hear me, let me know. Okay. So I'm double checking the video on my end too. It looks like we're working. So let me know if you guys can hear me. Looks like we've had somebody else join, so welcome. Again, if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. I'm having trouble getting this working. Okay, also, I guess I just want to let you know, if you're on your mobile, you're having trouble chatting, it is easier on desktop, unfortunately. I haven't figured out a good way to get mobile to work. You can also try and, if you want to get access to the chat on mobile, another thing you can do is to try and see if you can kind of tap on the video and copy the video URL and open it in YouTube and see if it works out better there. So give that a try too if you're having trouble accessing the chat. That seems to be a good workaround. For some reason, it's tough to get YouTube's live chat to show up on mobile easily. So, all right, let me know if you guys can hear me. We'll give it a little bit longer. Right now, it looks like one of you is online. So I just want to double check that you guys can actually see me and hear me. Thank you for your patience. In the meantime, while we're waiting too, there will be a moment for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, make sure you go ahead and drop those in the chat too, so we can address that at the end of the session here as well. And okay. Okay, well, let's see. So we're about 8 minutes after here, and we'll just go ahead and get started. So I can't tell who's logged in here, so whoever you are, thank you for joining, and I really appreciate you joining this session. We'll just go ahead and get started, and then for those who have missed it or joined a bit later, we'll have I'll send them a follow-up recording of this so they can get it too. But this is an awesome opportunity. If you you have any questions at all, basically you have the whole Q&A time for any questions you have. So happy to answer those. So if you aren't able to get in the chat right now, I really recommend, if possible, to get to a desktop access. That's easiest, or to open up your the link on YouTube again is probably the easiest as well. So give that a shot and see if it works. And so hopefully I'm able to get to your questions. Worst case, what we'll do is you know what I'll do here? Give me a second and I'll pull up my email too. So if you want to email me your question, if you're having trouble getting to the chat, that way I'll be able to get to it. You can email ben@easylivingyards.com and that'll get right to my right into my inbox. So I'll go ahead and check that email once we end the topics portion and move over to the Q&A piece. So that way, if you're having trouble getting to the chat, just try to do that instead, and try and do that now, or as we're talking a little bit. Of course, try not to. I'll give you a little time if you have any specific questions, but I just want to make sure there's not too much dead space or whatever in between our question and answer. It does take a little bit of time for the email to get through my filtering system, so that way I can make sure I have your email as soon as possible. Let me see let me just go ahead and log in now. So this is a good chance. If you want to ask a question or if you have something on top of your mind already, go ahead and write that now while I'm getting logged into my email as well. Okay. Let's try this again. Thanks for your patience here. It's too many glitches. That's how it goes sometimes. It's kind of like landscaping, right? All right. Here we go. All right. So yeah, if you want to send it that way, that's kind of the backup option that we've got for now. So maybe one day in the future, I can get like some cool texting option or whatever. So, all right. So let's start on the topic piece here. So today we're going to be talking 5 easy steps to an eco-friendly yard. So these are supposed to be super easy ways. If you're committed to providing a more ecologically or environmentally friendly landscape, more sustainable living, better natural habitat, those sorts of things. That's what this discussion is about. So I want to give you 5 super easy ways that you can get started today if you want, or well, tomorrow maybe, right? To get started. So it's not so intimidating, because it can be kind of intimidating, especially with all the, native plant purists out there and all these people that know so much about all these obscure pollinating insects and that sort of thing. It can be a little intimidating if you're on Instagram or Facebook following some groups. And so I want to make this as easy as possible, because the reality is we all kind of need to do this for, not to be so doom and gloom, but there are a lot of reasons to have a more eco-friendly landscape, both for ourselves and for the world around us. So I want to make it super easy for you to do that. So that's kind of why I wanted to host this webinar today. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the topics we're going to cover, the various steps, and then I'll dive in a bit deeper, and then I'll have a chance for that question and answer it again. So again, if I'm assuming you've been able to hear me so far, but if you have any questions, drop it in the chat or send me an email at ben@easylivingyards.com, and I'll check that email and check the chat at the end of the topic piece. So as far as the topics go, there are 5 specific ways that you can really make a big difference. Some of these are tough, but they're all easy, okay, if that makes sense. They're all easy to start. And of course, you can get way more complex on that if you want. Let me see if we lost audio here. You might hear an echo for a minute. I have to check my audio. It sounds like I lost audio. All right, so let me try this again. I think my high-tech headphones are working now. Okay, let's see if we're connected. Okay, I think we're back on. So let me know if you can not hear me. Or let me know if you can hear me. This is tough, isn't it? Okay, so I think we're good. All right. So let's get moving again. Thank you for your patience here. All right, so we've got 5 groups. The first is maybe the toughest mentally for a lot of us, but it's very important, and that is chemical use, synthetic chemical use. The second group is mulch, and the appropriate use of mulch is a better way to say that. The third is how you use your mower in your landscape. Fourth is managing your lawn area across your property. And fifth is regionally adapted plants. So those are kind of our main areas right now that we're going to focus on. So let's start with the toughest, chemical use. So when it comes to chemical use, we've kind of become addicted to our chemical use in our landscape. I've got a little, this is our cat, Maya. She's come to join our call here. She usually puts her fairest end toward me. Okay. Anyway, so chemical use is difficult, right? We it's really inexpensive and really convenient to go to the local box store, and there's shelves and shelves. The toughest part is figuring out which one you want to buy, not whether or not you're going to buy something, right? And so there is super easy access to these chemistries that are really advanced, and they're really effective at what they do, right? And unfortunately, it's also very obscure of it's very obscure to understand what the side effects of these chemistries are. And the reality is most of them have some sort of non-target effect, right? Is the technical term, and that what that really means is that they affect stuff beyond what you specifically are using it for. So let's take really, I want to focus on the positive side mostly here of what you can do, but we got to dwell a little bit on this, right? And I've done this in the podcasts too, right? I always get off topic. Well, for herbicides, right? Usually what you're targeting, say you have like a weed and feed, right? So it targets a broadleaf plant. So your non-grasses, right? So your dandelions and your clover and stuff like that. Well, when you use something like a weed and feed, of course, it broadly affects anything with broadleaves. It affects things that have broad leaves across the board. I guess let's not use the word broad too much. And so, for example, if you use that stuff where feeder roots of trees are coming up, right? You have your central trunk of your tree, but then out from the soil in the base of the tree, you have these feeder roots that extend pretty far, and they come right up under the soil surface. And so if there is broadleaf herbicide contacting those roots, that affects your beautiful lawn tree as well, right? And so it can have negative effects because a tree is a broadleaf plant too. Most trees are, at least, unless you have palms or something like that planted in your landscape. So there's a lot of non-targeted effects of both herbicides and pesticides when we're specifically, well, actually both organic and synthetic herbicides and pesticides have these non-target effects. So reducing our herbicide use, especially in our pesticide use, especially for synthetic chemistries, is really important. These synthetic chemistries often have very serious non-target effects, and they also have a long life in the environment after you use them. And they're often misused as well, either the wrong dosage or applied at the wrong time, where they end up rushing off the landscape and into the environment around us. So they have serious effects. You've heard of these massive algal blooms or dead zones in the rivers and the oceans and the Great Lakes. Those effects are specifically from the use of lawn chemicals and agricultural chemicals that rush off the landscape and into the waterways and affect these spaces. So it has huge, massive effects when used on scale. So how can we reduce our use of herbicides without just going crazy, right? Because if you reduce the use of your weed and feed, you're probably going to get weeds, right? Well, it depends on how you manage your space. So this factors into really all of these 5 tips interplay with each other to make a beautiful landscape that's still something your neighbors won't hate. And it might require a little bit of give and take on your own personal preferences, right? So you might have the occasional weed pop up, for example. Depends on how pristine you want things. It's possible to do with a certain amount of work and investment, right? So when you get rid of herbicides, what can you do? Well, you can enhance your soil. That really goes a long way. Healthy soils help decrease the dependency on herbicides and synthetic fertilizers, and also pest palatability towards these plants as well. So pests usually target weakened plants. And so when you increase the strength of your plants, so you're increasing the strength, if we're talking specifically lawn, for example, you increase the health of your lawn with organic approaches, you can long-term increase the health of your grass and reduce the amount of pest pressure on your lawn. So it all ties together. So there's really easy things. I want to get specific today, right? So whether you're talking about your lawn or your garden beds, enhancing your soil goes a long way. And what do I mean by enhancing soil? Well, soil life and increasing the biodiversity in your landscape is massively important to having a healthy ecosystem in your yard, even if it's a lawn. So adding compost or compost teas, if you want to look into that. These are resources you can specifically look up. You can aerate your lawn if it needs it. You can just in general decompact. So aeration goes a long way. Top dressing with compost as well can help build that health of your soil as well. And then as far as weeds go, you end up switching to spot treatments, whether it is with the synthetic chemistry or trying to slowly wean yourself off of that and use a non-synthetic form, which usually does not go systemic. So for example, with Roundup, if you spray even a tiny bit of the leaf surface, it goes into the plant through the roots and kills it. That's why it's so effective. If you use something like a vinegar and soap combination that we've all seen on Pinterest, right? The stuff works, but it only kills what it contacts. Okay, so if you spray the top part, it kills the top part, but it doesn't kill the roots. The roots will come back. And so it requires repeated treatment in order to have the same effect of long-term killing the plant. What we found effective in our landscape is just spot treatment with pooling, all right, the old school method. And also just, to be honest, accepting a little bit of difference in our landscape, not having 100% lawn, where it's 100% turf grass, I mean. So if you do want a more pristine appearance to your lawn, for example, and do it in an organic approach, I highly recommend the book, The Organic Lawn Care Manual. I'll share this research. Let me resource with you. Let me make a note of that. So it's a great book by a guy named Paul Tukey. And it's really a helpful book, and it goes through various ways he's managed very pristine landscapes effectively, including the National Mall lawn in front of the White House. So it's pretty crazy stuff. So as far as an organic approach, he covers the gamut of either the high maintenance version, which basically has pristine turf grass, your golf course style lawn, right? So if you're super high maintenance, which requires tons of maintenance if you use synthetic chemistries or organic approach, right? The healthier version is the organic approach. They're both tons of work, all right? But if you're willing to have maybe not a pristine lawn, but just a very nice, healthy lawn that is safe for your pets, safe for your kids, then an organic approach can be much less work. And he has tons and tons of tips and resources. It's a whole book full of really great information. So I don't want to get stuck on this one. So let's talk about pesticides. If it comes to pesticides, reducing your chemical use here is part of this integrated natural approach with these other tips. So we're going to talk about lawn. We're going to talk about what we can do with your mower as well to increase the health of your grass. All right. In addition to adding organic matter through compost, to your space. Having less lawn, for one, is really helpful if you're talking about grubs, for example, and having healthier grass. So we'll get into the healthier grass piece in a minute. When it comes to your plants, you really want to have more diverse plantings. So if you have a ton of the same kind of plant, they're more susceptible to pest pressure. And you also want diverse plantings because they help attract predator insects. So you have your herbivore insects, which are the ones people consider pests normally, right? And then you have your predator insects that target the pests. Well, they need something to eat when the pests aren't around. So having a lot of different things that are, something's always in bloom, and a lot of different types of forage for them too. Most of them drink nectar from flowers, so they're actually pollinators, these predator insects, when they're not predatoring on insects, right? Whether they're aphid predators, so like the ladybug or ladybird beetle, usually is on. They like to feed on composite flowers, so like dill and yarrow and wild carrot. Those types of, it has a big round nest of flowers basically that's made up of probably about 200 flowers. And so they like those types of plants, for example. So find out what pests maybe you're having, what you can plant for the predators that like to eat those pests, and have diverse plantings in general really goes a long way to setting up a healthy system where they'll manage the pests. You might still have some, but it won't be so prevalent where you're having massive damage. Okay, so one last piece on chemistries. This is very common now, is mosquito treatments. I'm going to share also, I've done 2 episodes on safe mosquito control, so I'll share those at the end as well as part of the resources with this. So for safe mosquito control, check out those episodes. But if you do yard treatments for mosquitoes, those salesmen are really tricky. I just had one of my friends asking me about this too, and she was like, something doesn't seem right, because they're really convincing, but I'm convinced that there's something negative about these treatments, and they say it's completely safe and that sort of thing. Well, the reality is, so what most of these, I think I lost my audio again, guys. I need to find out a different resource. Okay, I think we're back online again. Thank you. Okay, let's see if you guys can hear me again. Okay. All right, we're back online. So thanks for your patience. And today is a tough day when it comes to the technical issues, so I appreciate your patience here. If you just joined, welcome, and if you're still there, thank you for being here. Let's keep working on this. So with mosquitoes, the reality is those pyrethrin treatments that they usually use are not 100% safe, like they say they are, and also they have a lot of non-target effects. So these pyrethrins are generalist pesticides. So that when you spray for mosquitoes, you're not only killing all mosquitoes in your yard, but you're killing all the other insects. And if you're not an insect person, I get it. So that might sound like a nice thing on the surface, but insects are our pollinators. They're food sources for birds. They support basically all other levels of life, just maybe not quite as impactful as plants are and how much they support life. But plants first, insects second, as far as how impactful they are if they weren't here. And insects are suffering massive declines. And so mosquito treatments in your yard, while it seems like a nice thing, are actually very detrimental when used on scale like they are these days. So instead of that, one of the easiest things is just to remove all sources of standing water in your landscape and asking your neighbors to do the same. So if your gutters have a tiny bit of pooled water in them after a rainstorm, if it can hold water there for at least 2 to 3 days, that's enough water for mosquito mothers to lay their eggs, for those larvae to hatch, and then to stay in the small pockets of moisture that remain to transform to adults. So 2 to 3 days is really on the short end. It usually requires a little bit more time, usually about 8 days or so for larvae to pupate. And once they're pupated, they can turn into adults with less moisture. And that's your mosquito life cycle, basically. So remove all standing water goes a huge way toward being the most effective thing for reducing mosquito pressure in your nearby area. Okay, so enough on chemicals. Let's move on. So the second piece, so first was to reduce your chemical use, right? The second piece is to use effective mulching in your landscape. And when I talk about this, there's a lot of polarization right now in the eco-friendly space as to whether or not mulch is a good thing. Now, when people are kind of bashing the mulch thing, really what they're talking about is when you use it as an element, a visual element in landscaping. So if you think about what a lot of people do around their trees in their yard, they'll put this giant pile of mulch around, and some landscapers will call them mulch volcanoes. Well, for one, this can be detrimental to your trees. If you cover up the base of your tree, it can actually kill your tree if it the root flare, that part that kind of widens out a little bit right at the base, becomes covered, becomes susceptible to rot issues because it's not meant to be buried. That interchange area of the tree between root tissue and trunk tissue is really important for it to be exposed to oxygen and airflow, or else it becomes very susceptible to disease and can kill it. Now, aside from that, these areas are also prone to a lot of weed issues, and it's just kind of a dead space, right? So that's why a lot of landscapers don't like mulch. Now, what are the benefits of mulch? When used properly as a tool, it can be beneficial to produce healthy soil. And I've used it many times this way, and it can also be beneficial as a temporary barrier for weeds until you fill it in with desired plants. So in general, I do prefer a landscaping process where you have full coverage of plants. This is the most robust to prevent weed issues, to prevent disease issues, to prevent diverse habitat if you have multiple plants doing the job, and also to protect the soil, to build soil health, and to really just have a healthy, vibrant landscape. And so it can be very beautiful to the human eye, and can be very vibrant from a ecology and a health standpoint, if that makes sense. So the mulch is a temporary barrier. What you do is you use non-dyed mulches. That's really important. So use mulches that don't have the red or the black dye in it. That's become really popular. It's kind of like an element, a decorative element. To be honest, I really, this is a part where I struggle because I've never found it super attractive. I can see where the black mulch can, be a little bit better looking, but those are dyed mulches. Okay, it used to be that these black mulches were partly decomposed wood chip mulches mixed with manure and slightly composted. That's what it used to be. Now it's mulch that's dyed black and mixed with usually fresh manure, which is why it has that funky, nasty smell. That's not good. And those dyes often have, or those mulches are usually made from chipped up wood pellets that has preservation agents in it, which negatively affect the soil life. So all those microbes in the soil, which are actually, you hear like microbes and equals germs. Well, these are microbes equals good, healthy things for plants and soil life, which supports plant health and reduces pest issues like root fungus and that sort of stuff. So you need the good guys, right? And so the good guys grow on healthy soil. And so these mulches that you get that are dyed are usually full of wood preservatives, not good stuff. So what you want to get, either fresh tree clippings from your tree care service. A lot of municipalities actually offer free mulch, so take advantage of it. So this stuff you can actually get for free instead of paying a boatload of money at your local big box store. Also, check out a landscape supply place. See if they have wood chip mulch as opposed to the dyed stuff. Okay, so check out if they have untreated, naturally sourced, non-dyed mulch. That's what you want. Now, I get it if you don't find it quite as pretty in your landscape. I get that. So what you can do is you can cover it with a thin layer of like pine needle mulch or bark mulch or something like that, where it's still 100% natural, but it's considered slightly more appealing to the eye. So that's a way where you basically put your thick layer of your chip mulch. If you don't like the look of it, we use it in our landscape. I think it looks beautiful. But if you don't like the look of it, put something you consider a very thin layer of something you consider more attractive that's still a naturally sourced, non or chemistry free, basically. So non-preserved, non-dyed mulch that won't negatively affect your soil. Now, when you're using it as a weed barrier, make sure again you keep the base of your plants clear, and then also you use a thick enough layer. So usually if I'm starting a new garden bed, what you do is you put down a barrier layer first. This can be a couple layers of newspaper or cardboard or something, but basically if you can do this right on top of a lawn if you want, if you're starting a new garden bed. Usually I prefer to kind of, well, it depends really. You can do it right on top of a lawn if you have enough mulch, and depending on how you're planting too. So you can just put this stuff down, dig a very small hole where you're planting your plants, through the cardboard or newspaper or whatever, so the roots can access the soil. But then you have a thick layer of mulch. So a lot of times, if you have access to compost, put some compost directly over top of the cardboard or newspaper, and then a layer of mulch that's about 4 inches thick at minimum. Okay, sounds like a lot. It is a lot. But what that stuff's going to do is over the course of about 2-3 years, even after 1 year, it starts to really degrade. But especially 2 or 3 years, all of that mulch turns into beautiful black organic topsoil. Okay, and now you have super healthy topsoil for those plants that are starting to establish, and they're super healthy and super vibrant. Okay, so now you've got a wonderful new space that used to be some horribly compacted soil that's devoid of organic matter and topsoil, and now much healthier as a garden bed. So those are the benefits of mulch. Okay, and of course plan to eventually fill in that space unless you plan to continually add mulch to the spaces that you don't want weeds, because the reality is weed seeds will come in from all over the place, and whether it's through bird droppings, through wind deposition, through runoff depositing them there, they will get there. Okay, so you'll get weeds eventually, and so you want to prevent them by putting the plants you want or continually adding mulch to those spaces. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense on appropriate use of mulch. Okay, so let's keep moving here. I see we're about 30 minutes in here, and I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. If you have any questions, again, if you have a question, throw it in the comments section. It should be in the comments page there. If you can't get to it, if you're on your mobile especially, it kind of has trouble displaying sometimes. So you can go and let me just check on my mobile to make sure this is working. But I think what you can do is you can go to your mobile and copy so hover over this video, kind of hold on to it and see if it has an option to copy the link here. I'm going to check this right now to see if this is going to work like I'm saying. But if not, again, send me an email. I haven't checked my email yet, so if you have sent me an email, I've gotten it. But if not, send me an email if you have any questions. And as we get through these next couple of points here too. So let's see, Eco Webinar. And if you're on your mobile but you have a desktop that you can access, that's probably the best thing to do because the chat works on desktop as well. So let's see here. Okay. Just a moment here. Trying to get to the right web address. Just to double check, I can practice what I preach here, right? So that's what I preach. Okay, right? Here's me. All right, that's kind of weird. Let's see if this is going to work. Here's me. All right, that's kind of weird. Let's see if this is going to work. Here's me. Okay, that's a weird echo. I'm going to turn the volume down. Okay. All right. Oops, and I have the wrong link. Easy Living Yard. I think the live link works as well, but let's see. Okay, so all right, what you want to do if you're having trouble, go to close the video and go back to the web page. All right, and then if you click on the top corner, it'll say watch later and share. If you click share, it'll come up with okay. I think you guys can still hear me. Okay, I think you can still hear me. Okay, so all you have to do is hit copy here, and then if you go over to YouTube, let's see if this works. I'm kind of one of those slow people on YouTube or whatever, so or just on my mobile in general. I guess really you can paste this in your browser. I had to type. Oh, yep. All right, back to browser. Okay, this is getting way too involved. I'm sorry about this. All right, so go to browser. Let's see if this. Okay, so there we go. We're on YouTube now, and so there you can watch on YouTube. And then where's the comments section? Okay, there should be commenting here, so I apologize for that. This is it looks like a glitch I'll have to work through later, but for now, go ahead and send me an email. All right. Sorry about that. I apologize. So yeah, if you're on your mobile, we're just gonna have to do the email. So ben@easylivingyards.com will get you to that email. So okay, let's keep moving. All right, so we talked about chemistry. Reducing chemistry is one of the most impactful ways you can start having an eco-friendly yard. It takes really, it's a mindset thing, right? We're conditioned to use synthetic chemistries as a shortcut to solve the problems in our landscape. But the unfortunate issue is they cause long-term problems both in our landscape and the world around us, which is very unfortunate. Likewise, too, of course, they're a special risk to children, pets, and pregnant women. Okay, 3 specific areas where I don't like to have negative effects. So I don't like to be responsible for knowing that maybe I've done anything that could affect, children, pets, or pregnant women. So let alone all those other creatures. They say pets, but the reality is, if it's detrimental to something like a dog, think about the frogs or the turtles or if you like snakes, the snakes, or the birds in your landscape. It has just as much effect on all those creatures too. Okay, so you can tell I'm really passionate about chemistry, and it's really unfortunate that it's just so easy to use because it's also such a negative effect in the world around us. Okay, so we talked about chemistry. I think we've covered that one pretty good. So we talked about mulch as well, effective use of mulch. Well, let's talk about your lawnmower. One of the best things you can do with your lawn to reduce the amount of time you spend mowing, but more important, and so of course emissions there too, but also more importantly to increase the health of your grass is to raise your mower blades. So a lot of people, we like to cut around 2 to 2.5 inches height. It looks nice and clean and well kept, right? Right after we cut it. By the next day, it's already looking long and shaggy. That's how grass works. It's this weird process. So you start with your grass is low, right? So what it's going to do, you just chopped off all of its leaves, right? Grass has leaves. That's what it is, right? And so by chopping off all its leaves, you make it want to race to grow those leaves back because the leaves are how grass gets its energy, right? It's a plant. So they photosynthesize. Well, they need more leaf surface to convert sunlight energy into plant sugars and to store that energy and to also use it to grow cells. Okay, so to grow the top and the roots of the plant and to help it use tons of energy to reproduce as well, right? Like most creatures, it takes a lot of energy for grass to reproduce. And so you chop the top off, right? So now it has to grow back. So it's in disaster mode now. So it's putting a lot of energy into growing back. So it grows faster. Okay. You get where I'm going here, right? Well, then you cut it again, right? And so when you cut that grass again, now it's still wanting, it's in survival mode, right? It's trying to grow back as fast as it can, but now it's doing so much with top growth that it can't spend enough energy photosynthesizing and growing its roots out. Okay, so now it has weakened root systems and a weakened top growth as well. And so your grass becomes weaker. That's the reality. And so let's flip that script now. Okay, so now we have taller grass. Yeah, it's still not, most of us have like a hard fescue lawn that live in the northern half of the United States. The southern half, you have like a St. Augustine lawn or something like that, right? A more drought tolerant southern style grass, right? I'm most familiar with hard fescues, so I'm going to use that example. Hard fescues like to grow the blades like to grow about 12 to 14 inches tall. That's not a lawn grass, right? So of course we're not going to want to let it grow that tall. The seed heads grow even taller. So we keep it cut though around like 4 inches or so, and it's less stress because it still has a lot more leaf surface area. It's double the leaf surface area, right, from our 2-inch grasses. So it has more leaf surface area. It's able to photosynthesize better, be in less of a disaster mode, less focused on top growth, and can focus on a more holistic growth pattern. So it's growing its foliage slowly, it's growing its roots deeper, and it's more drought tolerant, it's more resilient, the roots are stronger, the top growth is stronger, grows slower, you have to cut it less often. It sounds like a perfect world. It's not a perfect world because you still have to cut it, all right? But it's a better place than in the other place, okay? So it's a lot less work. It still looks just as nice when you cut everything nice and even up top. It still looks the same, okay? So raising your mower does a lot to increase the health of your grass for that reason. It also saves you time to mow less often. But the silver lining here is that it also reduces the pest pressure on your grass. With healthier roots, they can actually secrete more pest repellent chemistries that are naturally present in grasses. And so they're less palatable to things like Japanese beetle larvae, like those grubs we talked about in the chemistry section. So you have healthier grass, more resistant to grub pressure, and so you don't need to use chemicals as much. See how this is this kind of like beautiful interplay dance? Yeah, I wish I planned it this way, but it's just how it is. Okay, so anyway, all right, so that's raising your mower blades. Now let's talk about replacing the lawn. With replacing the lawn, really what you were doing is reducing the highest maintenance area of our landscape and filling it in with beautiful low maintenance garden beds. All right, so you can select low maintenance plants that are adapted to your space. You want to use when you're talking about designing this new space, you want to have a purpose in mind. What's your purpose with that space? What do you want to do? And if you don't think you have one, maybe planting for habitat is a good idea or something like that. It's a little teaser for a moment here. All right, so also you're going to be reducing irrigation with this space and reducing your chemistry reliance on chemicals that people often use for their lawns to keep it looking healthy, even though in reality it's not, like we just talked, right? And also you reduce the amount of overall work. It takes a lot of work to install, right? But once you get there, it's a lot less work to maintain. And that's the beautiful piece. It looks gorgeous and it's a lot less work, okay? So replace your lawn, as much of it as you can, with beautiful low maintenance garden space. Okay, let's move on. I really want to have some time here. I know this took a while. So regionally adapted plants, that's the last piece. Okay, what do I mean by regionally adapted plants? Know your conditions on your site, okay? It's very important for this piece. So know your sun exposure, right? And if let's get really specific. We're talking about one specific garden bed here, okay? Because it could be different on the front of your house versus the back, the side, or down, down at the front of your property, something like that, okay? So for each space you're planting, know the sun exposure, the soil type. These are things you can look up. Your pH, soil pH, or if you get a soil test, it'll help with this. Your water availability for that space. What's your overall climate? And how does water interact on your landscape in this specific space? Okay, choose plants that fit all of those conditions, so that way those plants are happy in that space. That's the biggest, top secret, most obvious key, right? It's super obvious, but it's super missed in landscapes. Okay, so pick plants that are adapted to your space. Do your homework on what your space has available, and then find the plants that fit into that space. Going to the big box store or going to your nursery to look at plant tags is not the way to do it. Go online. There's tons of resources online of plant finders to select your conditions and then find the plants that fit those conditions. All right, that's the best way to do it. It takes a lot of planning, it takes work, but it's well worth it in the long run. You'll save money on wasted plants. You'll save money on preventing to have to do treatments on those plants, whether pest issues that come up because the plant is weak, or feeding of that plant, watering. The plant will just be happier in that space from the get-go once you get it well established to begin with. All right, so those are my 5 tips, guys. Reducing your chemistry reliance on synthetic chemistries as well as organic, pesticides and herbicides. Okay, those are better, generally speaking, but there's still a treatment that you have to rely on instead of solving the long-term issue. Use mulch appropriately, raise your mower, replace your lawn as much as you can with low-maintenance garden beds, and then use regionally adapted plants. Okay, so those are my 5 tips. I have one bonus tip too. All of these tie together into this one bonus tip, which will make your yard super eco-friendly. All right, this is awesome. And that is provide native habitat. So far, all the tips we've talked about so far are about you, right? This one's about the rest of the world that is not human, okay? The rest of this world that is not human is very important, okay? And too few people think about it. And this is really why you're here, is because you care, okay? I care a lot, and so that's why I find it super meaningful that you're here. So you care, I appreciate that. And by really providing native habitat is what goes the most, it's what is the most impactful to having an eco-friendly yard. Native habitat is usually full of regionally adapted plants. It reduces your lawn space. It reduces your dependency on chemicals because you have hardy plants for your space. You get where I'm going here, right? Okay, so it already covers those tips, right? Okay, so when it comes to selecting native plants, again, these are regionally native plants, okay? So these are plants that are native to your area, your general region, and you can look these up. A lot of states have websites or lists. A lot of local municipalities have awesome lists too. Check your, I think I keep losing audio here, guys. I apologize. Unfortunately, right before this started, I went to grab my cable and I grabbed okay, I don't know if you lost me there, but sorry if the audio keeps cutting out. I'm on my Bluetooth here and I grabbed the cable to use and I grabbed the wrong one. I have 2 different cables. The one I grabbed sadly doesn't fit. So I apologize for the tech issues today. I'm really sorry about that. It's kind of frustrating, I'll be honest. So back to the native piece, okay? So you want regionally native plants. You can find these at your local municipalities. There's often resources. There's a group nationwide called Wild Ones. If you go to wildones.org, you'll see if you have a local Wild Ones chapter, and these are basically a local club, a local native plants club that promotes native landscaping. So these are people, these are people you can connect with, and they'll be super happy to help you. Trust me. Okay. All right. Now you can also go to the National Wildlife Federation has this awesome resource that entomologist Doug Tallamy put together a couple years ago with his research crew. And so you can go over to nwf.org/native plant finder. If you just Google native plant finder, National Wildlife Federation, it'll come up as the first result. Okay, they have a giant database where you punch in your zip code and it will tell you all the, like, this giant list of plants that are native to your area. Of course, it's a little bit overwhelming. I get it. So it takes a little bit of filtering through. So that's where if you can find one of these other local resources to your area, you can filter that list down a little bit. Okay. So I really recommend you guys use those resources to find the native plants in your area. It'll go a long way to increasing the biodiversity and the environmental benefit of your space. Guys, whether it's the plants or the insects or the animals, they're all feeling stressed right now, okay? Their numbers are declining. It's sad actually when you see the numbers, especially with insects. Insects have declined like over 40% since the 1970s. It's crazy, all right? And birds are having reduced habitat to raise their young in, and also reduced insect life to feed their young, which is really important too. So it's stressing birds. So if you like birds, then you like insects, then you like native plants. That's kind of how it goes, right? If you like little critters around your yard, they like native plants too, and all the insects they provide, all the seeds, the healthy berries they provide. So these things are really important. What you can do matters, okay? So try thinking about how you can integrate native habitat into your landscape. Okay, so if there's one thing you do to help with a more eco-friendly landscape, plant an oak tree. Okay, so oak trees are hosts to a ridiculous. They're the genus with the most insect habitat that they provide. So basically, native oak trees provide native habitat more than any other plant in the United States. So if you have to do one thing, plant an oak tree. Okay, and nature, Mother Nature will thank you, and so will all the creatures around you. Okay, guys, so if all this stuff sounds helpful, I am incredibly glad that you stuck around and listened to all this. I'm super excited to really try to provide 5 easy ways to get started. Now, the reality is this landscaping stuff is kind of overwhelming, right? So this is what the Easy Living Yards membership is for, is to provide opportunities like this where I especially when this membership is so small. Here's the secret, guys. I have a tiny membership. I do this as a side passion job right now. I love what I do and I want to do more of it. So I want to help more of you. I have 2 members right now, which means you could be the 3rd member. Okay. It's only $9 a month. It's super cheap, guys. It will never be this cheap again. But the Easy Living Yards membership is only $9 a month, and basically I give you one-on-one coaching or 1-on-3 coaching, right? With my other few members, we have a forum that's on demand where you can punch in a question anytime you want, and I will answer as quickly as I see it. And the rest of the community helps you out too. I have 2 other they're super awesome members right now, okay? And so they will help you out too. We do twice a month member calls where it's basically like office hours. So I'm there the whole time to ask any questions you're dealing with. We work through design ideas, plant selection questions, pest issues, all sorts of stuff. So the Easy Living Yards membership is really where I provide the premium support level to get you making the biggest impact in your landscape you can to create that beautiful eco-friendly yard. Okay, something your neighbors are envious of, instead of calling the township about or calling your local city government about or your HOA. They're excited that you have a beautiful yard and they're jealous of all the cool butterflies you have in your yard, right? Okay, that's what I want to help you create. So if it's something you're interested in, check it out. easylivingyards.com/membership. There's a link right here on the page, that big pink button. All right. I think it's both ways. Yeah. So just check out that big pink button or go to easylivingyards.com/membership. Now, as a special bonus for you being here, or, if you didn't make it, I'm going to share this video as well. So if you're here watching this a little bit after, within the next day, okay, I want to offer you a super cool deal if you sign up, which is I want to start you off with a kickstart session, a 1-hour session to go through your specific issues you're dealing with and to get you started as quickly as possible to talk about whatever issues you were dealing with, to focus you on the right priorities. So figure out if you have the right priorities right now, super laser focus you on how to get moving forward as quickly as possible, how to keep from getting overwhelmed and stay super focused, and to get you making the biggest win possible as quickly as possible in your landscape, because that's how we get the ball rolling. So this free 1-hour session, if you sign up in the next 24 hours, you'll have access to this free 1-hour session as part of your membership. All you have to do is sign up and let me know. Just send me an email, ben@easylivingyards.com, and let me know that you just signed up as part of the webinar, the live webinar, and we'll schedule up your session. Okay, guys, I normally charge $99 an hour for this work, so this is an awesome deal. All right, you're getting it for $9.99 a month, or I think it's $9 a month. I can't remember. It's super cheap though, and the reason is, more than making money, I want to build the foundation of a business that fits my core values, and you are a major part of this. And I can't I can't be more honest here, guys. Okay, so it's, of course I need to do this and make a little bit of money to pay the bills, right? To even just for all the web stuff I do, right? And so that's what the payment is there for. And the reality is too, if you're not going to pay money, you're not going to be serious about it. Okay, well, I'm going to get real serious about that. Okay, so consider the membership. It's a super small investment with a super big return, and I incredibly want to help you as much as I can with my time as best possible to really get you started. So go on over easylivingyards.com/membership, become a member today. I'll look forward to seeing you in the membership. Now, this is the time for Q&A. All right, so if you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat here. I don't see any questions in the chat. Let me double check my email here for just a moment, and we'll see if you've got any emails here as well. And if you don't have any questions, that's okay. I'm super thankful that you're here and spent the time with me to kind of talk through these points, because this is fun for me just to discuss, to know that I can actually help you in your landscape. So thank you for being here. Man, I'm having trouble seeing my email here. My screen's kind of weird right now, so bear with me. I think this is an operator issue more than anything else. There we go. All right, so again, guys, thank you for being here. Trying to update my inbox to make sure I didn't get any emails dropping in here. Okay, so it looks like no questions for now, and that's okay. So I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, guys. Thank you for being here and showing me that you care about trying to make a positive difference through your landscape. Okay, this isn't just about saving the whales or something like that. While that's important, my family and I, we went whale watching last year up on the St. Lawrence River Bay up in it's crazy. It felt like we were in northern Canada, but we didn't even make it up halfway through Canada. North of Quebec City. It was amazing seeing these whales coming up everywhere. It's just mind blowing. Anyway, this isn't about saving the whales directly, even though that's important. Okay, this is about providing a space of positivity and a space that you feel like you're making a difference, not just to feel good, but because you are making a difference. Okay, so creating an eco-friendly yard, it's kind of the minority when we stare out at our neighbors and they're all out there mowing their yards, trimming the edges, blowing their leaf clippings everywhere, and then spraying the cracks, that's what my neighbors do, at least. It's heartening to know that I am working with people like you that actually care. So thank you for being here. Again, I'm going to stay on just for a few minutes in case you have any more questions. Go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I'm going to double check that I'm not just accidentally missing them somehow, so I can make sure I'm taking care of everything. So if you have any questions, not just about the the specific topics today, but any sort of question, feel free to ask. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, I don't see any questions. So let's go ahead and wrap up here, guys. So thank you so much for joining tonight. I really appreciate you being here. I've had a fun time, so I hope you have too. I think Maya's had a fun time too. So she seems really, really impressed with my discussion tonight. So guys, I look forward to seeing you in the membership. Again, it's $10 a month, super cheap. And we'll get if you sign up in the next 24 hours, you'll get a free 1 hour one-on-one consultation. We'll join on, if you're willing to do video webinar or a video chat, we'll do like a Zoom call one-on-one where we can talk through stuff. We can get super detailed and really make a positive difference. And that's my way of thanking you for joining the membership, helping you make the biggest positive difference possible and getting you jump started as quickly as possible. So it's an awesome deal. And I think my headphones died again. These tech issues are fun, right? So I hope you can hear me now. I think my headphones died again. It's craziness. I look forward to seeing the membership. That's what it boils down to. So easylivingyards.com/membership. Go on over, check it out, see if it's something that feels right for you. And I look forward to working with you more closely in the membership. Okay, guys, that's it for tonight. Have a great, wonderful night. Look in your inbox for a follow-up to this as well. So I'll give you a couple quick notes of what we talked today, a link to this video again in case you want to watch it again, or in case you missed this, you'll get this video in your inbox. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you live with passion and make tomorrow better than today. Cheers.